Let's give a big shout out, a big happy birthday to Poison the Well's debut album, The Opposite of December, A Season of Separation. Woo! That's right, 25 years of this classic metalcore album. And what a better way to celebrate than going back and reviewing it while the band is currently, as of this video, going out on tour to celebrate 25 years of this record. Whoa! Great, happy, awesome, all the great positive emotions. These guys have been still doing it, making it, and playing these songs hard and for a long time so that everyone can enjoy. Yeah, like, whoa, my words are really like fumbling right now, but yeah, congratulations, 25 years. Let's get into this review. Oh yeah. A little background on this band is Poison the Well is from Miami, Florida, and has been a band since about 1998. They play a style of melodic metalcore music, and they are one of the earliest bands to do that in terms of, influence a lot of bands that would come out later in the genre or later in the scene, like Under Oath, Every Time I Die, Norma Jean. And my personal history with this band is like when they were playing really hard, like in the mid 2000s, around 2010, they went on hiatus. I never got to see them live. I never really got to experience much about them. And so only in the recent years with them coming back and a lot of my friends telling me, yo, check out Poison the Well. You really need to do it now. And I was like, okay, before this review, years before I started getting into them, I was like, I kind of understand the influence. And so with them celebrating their 25th anniversary of their debut album, I thought it'd be a good idea to properly go back and digest this debut and give it a nice proper review, since I'm enjoying doing these reviews and it seems like a good time to do that. So let's get into it. From what I've gathered over the years from going to shows and meeting good friends and talking about the metalcore scene, there's probably very few albums that have such a lasting impact like this album, The Opposite of December. Even after 25 years, its raw emotion, its tight musicianship, and in its dynamic songwriting, it still holds up pretty well. I can see how this album took the whole metalcore genre and pushed it into a new and fresh direction at the time, because it's blending hardcore aggression with very introspective melodic sounds, setting a really interesting standard for bands to follow after this. Like I said, those influences before, Under Oath, Every Time I Die, Norma Jean, you can see a lot of what they're doing was built here, and like this is like the foundation of all that. From the opening moments of this album with the song 12/23/93, you can definitely tell that the band at the time, it's all business. They are getting right into it. They don't pull any punches. They go straight into it. What really stuck out about this song was the double kick drumming here is quite relentless and it just sounds really good. And then you got the snare drum here and it just like, it's super sharp. It cuts through, sounds awesome. And then the guitar work here has a very groovy, very locked in feel that kind of carries throughout the whole record. So I want to play a clip of this song for you so you get a sense of all the elements I just talked about. Those drums are so sharp. And early on, I noticed that the production on here, it's a little bit rough around the edges, especially comparing it to modern standards. And I know it's hard not to compare that, but you can tell that the production here was a little rough at times, but it does hold up. And so it also captures a very raw energy and shows that the band is really pushing through the boundaries of metal and metalcore sounds at the time with the limited production they had. A Wish for Wings That Worked really builds on the intensity here with some really massive sounding drums and heavier and chuggier driven approach with the guitars, and it just sounds heavy. And I gotta say, on this song, the vocals at times do get a little bit buried in the mix, but the song's slower, moodier sections create a very cold and weighted atmosphere that sets the emotional tone for the rest of the album. So it's kind of like a give and take with the vocals here, but the overall atmosphere is just really done well on this track. And I think one thing that everyone and myself can say about this band and this album is that, they are really good at balancing out chaos and melody, which is quite evident on the songs Slice Paper Wrist and Nerdy. Both of these songs feature the band's most memorable riffs and transitions, just effortlessly shifting from groovy, heavy rhythms to some really crushing breakdowns. Like I said, they're really good at doing that balancing act. With the song Slice Paper Wrist, you get some of the strongest clean vocals on the album, and they add a lot of emotional depth that really contrast the heavier moments on this album. So I want to play a little clip of Slice Paper Wrist so you get a sense of the clean vocals that they were doing at the time when this was released. I have a feeling these vocals sounded good back in the day. I can only imagine on this upcoming tour they have, and just him being aged and seasoned, I feel like these clean vocals are going to sound stronger than ever. And then you got the song Nerdy, probably one of the most iconic openings on this album for this band, or even for the genre as a whole, with its real tight and just infectious riff playing here that just simply leads into a very devastating breakdown later. But that opening on this song is just like, as they say, chef's kiss. So I'm going to play a clip of that for you because you got to hear it. Lightning in a bottle moment, baby. And the bass work on this song is really good because it really helps fill out that empty space in the song, and it really helps elevate the vocals to sound a little bit harder and just, more fleshed out. The band then takes kind of more of an experimental route on the song Mandate to Heaven because they lean more into darker, almost death metal-like atmospheres with muddier and more metal-driven riffs. The one thing I noticed about this song was at the beginning of the song, it feels a little bit disjointed and a little bit janky. But by the time, the song is over, it has a better groove and it just feels a little bit more cohesive. So I gotta say, it's probably the most unconventional and most experimental song on the album. So it could be a bit polarizing, I think. And the song Not Within Arm's Length kind of like switch things up a little bit by letting the guitars pull back a little bit, and they push the bass and drums to be more of the forerunner on this song. And so it helps to add a lot of dynamic and refreshing sounds to the album, and kind of helps the album from not being just the same one note style or like a one trick pony over and over. They diversify a little bit. I gotta say, they really kind of threw me off a little bit, well, not a lot, but just a little bit on the song Mid-Air Love Message, because at times they kind of like don't go more with a metal sound. They go more with like a rock style guitar playing here. Like it has a moment of hard rock in it that was a little bit unconventional, I thought, but enjoyable at the same time. Despite these little experimentations they do on here, the heavier moments on this album really like hit you full force and sound great, and the slower, more atmospheric sections of the album really help you like understand the introspective moments on this album. Like I said, that balancing act they do here, they do it very well between the heavy and light stuff and just blend everything nicely. And then the closing track, My Mirror No Longer Reflects, does a really good job of tying everything up together to carry a nice sense of like finality to the album, with some really weighted riffs here and some really tight and crushing drum work. The slow and dense chugs mixed in with the emotionally charged melodies leave a very lasting impression on you and helps wrap the album up and leave it on a very powerful note. Even a quarter century later, The Opposite of December remains a defining moment in the metalcore genre. All these years later, the drumming on here is still very tight. The guitar work is very balanced and groovy and has a very good aggression to it. And the vocals carry an emotional depth that still resonates in people all these years later. And so on my final note here, I gotta say, Poison the Well, shaped an entire wave of bands with this album, and it still stands as a high note in the genre of metalcore. So I gotta give it up to the boys of Poison the Well. They did a really good job when this came out. That's why they're out celebrating it now, 25 years later. Pretty impressive. So I gotta say, Opposite of December, good and decent, solid. 8 out of 10. Links down below. Tell me what you think about this. Tell me some memories about this band, this album. What does it mean to you? Let's talk, let's discuss. I'm all about it. So like always, guys, I will See you in the pit. And go watch Poison the Well. They're on tour now once this video drops.